orchestra or an ensemble. This is Eliot Heaton, and he is concertmaster not only of the Michigan Opera Theater Orchestra, but also the Saginaw Symphony. He just got back late last night from Pittsburgh because he's been subbing in plays in the Pittsburgh Symphony sometimes. He's a pretty busy guy, and he knows a lot actually, about auditions. I think you played it too, right?
Yeah, I also played in youth orchestra. It was like, I had so much fun doing it. It sounds like this is a really good group. This year, come on down to the front, please. This year, I played a concertmaster with 5 different orchestras, and I've been in the violin section of 2 other orchestras, so 7 total orchestras for 2023, which is a new record for me. But I have both taken and listened to a pretty good number of auditions. So we wanted to talk to you today about, I know you have to do auditions for this orchestra, and a lot of you are probably like so good because you're able to play in this orchestra that you're going to keep taking auditions in the future. So we just wanted to talk to you about how to get ready for an audition or a concert that you really want to go well.
Yeah, and before we move into that, I just want to say I was at the concert 2 weeks ago. How many of you all played that concert? Yes? I want you to give yourselves a hand. It was a great concert. And I also want you to give a huge hand to your directors. I know at least one of them is here. So it takes a lot of work, not just by the people that are in the orchestra, to make all of this happen. And you may not know how fortunate you are yet, but at some point in your life you're going to say, wow, this was really a great experience, and a lot of people you can be grateful to. And I noticed there was the very first group, which I don't think the younger group is here. Did you, any of you hear their composition? They made their own composition that day. Yeah? So that was really cool. How many of you, has anybody ever composed something? I have a student that composes. Did you compose? Excellent. He's hoping to major in composition. Composers, yes. Awesome. So I can only imagine how exciting it is when you hear your own composition performed for the first time. Maybe you're playing it yourself, but what if it's an orchestral piece? Wow, can you imagine spending all that time writing a big, huge piece and wondering, is anybody ever going to play it? And when they finally play it, how do you think they feel? Pretty happy, right? Pretty happy, because you are delivering really a gift that they've created, and that gift is for all of humanity. And for example, who played the Heaton? Yeah, London Symphony. If you were Heaton and you were hearing your own composition for the first time, played with that kind of energy and that joy, and we heard it, guys, we heard it, how would you feel? So a lot of times we get all sort of stuck on, what are people going to think of my playing? Maybe I'm not as talented as the next person, whatever. I want you to really focus, and we're going to come back to this a lot today. What would the composer think? What do I want the composer to say at the end of this performance? So, it was nice, you played all the notes. I don't think that's what you want them to hear, right? I think you want them to say, wow, I heard so much in that performance. And the more we focus on those things, the more we focus on every little detail and making sure that the composer's message gets across, it's very interesting. Some of the what-ifs that we have, I was going to write the word what-if. Has anybody ever used that term? Yeah? What's your what-if? Oh, that's a good example. There's a fire drill at school, and the kids are asking, what if this, what if that, okay? Why do we have fire drills? So we know what to do if there's a fire. And that's what a fire drill is for. Did anybody, who played on this stage for the first time ever? Okay, on this particular stage, first time ever. Maybe, was it your first time in an orchestra? Anybody first time in an orchestra? Whoa. Okay, was there anything unexpected that happened that day that like maybe you weren't expecting? No, everything just went so smoothly and like nothing? Because usually for us, we can tell you all kinds of stories about stuff that happens, okay, on the day of a performance that we just didn't expect. But it's like a fire drill. When if we prepare, if our preparations are such that we're prepared, okay, this could happen, that could happen. You know, anybody ride a bike? Do you go out every day worrying that you're going to fall off the bike? Probably not, but you could fall off, right? So maybe you wear a helmet. You know, you wear a helmet because you go, well, if I fall off, I'm wearing a helmet, I'll probably be fine. Yeah, people put on seatbelts every day. Is that because you think you're going to have a car accident that day? Absolutely not. So when we prepare for something that means a lot to us, and maybe we've not done it very many times, our mind can start to kind of play games with us and do the whole what if thing. So I'm going to move this over to Eliot because today specifically we want to make sure that we spend enough time talking about what might be a new experience for you guys, some of you, and that is preparing an audition.
So let's do as you suggest. Okay, so let's talk about in an audition situation, what are some things you want it to go well, but maybe you get a little nervous, right? Or you get a little nervous because you want it to go well. So what are some bad things that could happen in an audition? We should, like, everyone's hands could be up twice, I bet. Yes, you.
What if I miss a note?
Yeah, you can miss a note. Let's get like 4 of these.
Okay.
Your shoulder.
What if the
Oh,
shoulder
this is
rests
good.
on-
I have that one.
Yes. What if she plays a note that's out of tune? What if the whole violin goes out of tune? And it happens. What if her fingers slip?
Okay, let's do these 4. We could go. This could be the whole presentation. We could just like think of nightmare scenarios. I don't really think that would be like a good thing to do though. So finger slips. Okay, let's take them one by one. Okay, I miss a note. What's the next? Like, okay, so I'm on stage. I'm playing my audition. This is real. This has happened. I'm on stage. I'm playing an audition, and I miss a note. So, why am I worried? Why is that bad? Yeah. They can't. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. So you can feel you're being sort of evaluated, and you can feel you're coming up a little short, right? Because you missed something. Yeah.
It can cause you to mess up the rest of it or stop.
You guys are so smart. You don't need this presentation, but like we can all like say stuff out loud and make ourselves feel good about it. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, great. Okay. This is gonna be great. So I missed a note. They're gonna think I'm bad, or they're gonna think I can't play it. It's gonna stick in my head for the rest of the performance, and it might make me miss more notes. And it's gonna be the only thing that people are gonna remember is that note. These are all things that are happening in my head when I miss that note. Okay. After those things, what's the next bad thing that's gonna happen? Is there any like third step bad thing? Yeah. Yeah, they might just not even remember. But I'm saying like after the audition's over, I missed the note, I'm home, I'm eating dinner. Is there something bad that's like coming in the future, or am I done with the bad stuff? Yeah, so if you're auditioning to move to a different chair, you might not get it. Yeah, that's right. That's pretty much it, right?
Or maybe you say, I'll never do another audition.
Might just
That would be horrible,
stop
right?
playing forever. Okay, so, well, I don't want to do that one because that would be sad because you're so young and talented. So we don't get, say I'm auditioning to be the first chair. I missed the note. I heard everyone's pen scratching in the audience, and then the seating comes out, and I'm still in the chair I was in before. Is there another bad thing after that we can think of? We can be creative. These don't have to be like that realistic. I didn't move up. What's next? I'm gonna get demoted. I might have to like move back. I might have to move back a chair, you mean?
No, not demoted, demotivated. Demotivated.
Oh, demotivated. Yeah, because I'm like, oh, I tried so hard. And then this could lead to the final ceasing of your musical career. Okay, this is getting pretty serious. Anything else? Anything more serious? Can we have like bodily injuries?
Practice and just have more messed up things.
Yeah, and that it might affect like future performances.
So why would it affect future performances, do you think?
Because if you're stressing out over things like that, that's kind of what caused me to start over practicing.
Yep.
Because I was so anxious about it, about messing up, or after I messed up, that caused me to just make me practice more. So
Okay.
then that didn't help at all.
So it makes you worry more.
Yeah.
So in fact, a lot of us are more afraid of getting nervous because we know that if we get we think that if we get nervous, quite frankly, I get nervous all the time, but we think that if we get nervous, all these terrible things are going to happen because those nervous feelings are a little uncomfortable. It turns out that people can be very nervous and still do their best. What does it take for them to be nervous and do their best? And I'm going to ask you to, I'm going to role play it here with Eliot. Eliot just studied the manual. He learned how to fly. He passed the pilot written exam, flying colors, 100%. Eliot, tomorrow we're going to send you to Germany with 200 passengers in the plane. Are you a little nervous?
I don't think that I should do that.
Why?
I don't think I've gotten any experience that is going to let me know what to do.
Oh, how do you get experience if you're a pilot? Anybody know what they do to get experience without putting 200 people on a plane? What? No, they have something called flight simulators. Flight simulators. So they go into a room and it simulates an actual flight. And you know what they give them in those flight simulators? All manner of terrible things, possible things that could happen. Oh, an engine is down. I better handle that. And sometimes maybe they don't handle it very well, but nobody dies because there's nobody in the plane. It's a simulator. You hear all these stories about what might bring a plane down in there. They have to, how many hours? I don't know, hundreds of hours of flight simulation. Why? Because even in the flight simulator, the first time they even do that, they're nervous. They might be nervous for many, many times, but pretty soon they develop the ability to handle whatever might come their way, and that's called rehearsal. Okay? You want to take it from there?
Yes, so we're not training to be airline pilots. We are trained to be, even if you will not ultimately be, we're trained to be professional musicians. So we just thought of all these bad things that could happen, and the worst thing, the final worst thing we could come up with was that we might not want to keep practicing our instrument. Now, if we stop practicing our instrument and you go to your high school football game and you talk to someone who's standing next to you, are they going to know that you stopped playing your instrument if they don't go to your high school? If you go to McDonald's and order, are they going to be like, oh, that's the guy who quit the trombone? Do they know? They know. Oh, they know for this guy. He's famous. But for most of us, right, the worst possible thing that could happen from messing something up in an audition really doesn't have a lot of bad consequences in the world outside of yourself, right? So like, it can feel, I've gone into auditions saying like, the stakes for this are so big. I'm like Iron Man going to fight whoever the bad guy is that Iron Man fights. And if I don't beat him, like, Earth is gonna explode. But really, I've gone into audition, I played poorly, I walk out, and I'm like, well, no one else was there. There was maybe 5 people in the audience, and they maybe know who I am, they maybe don't. Nobody cares as much as I care. So the next time I go in, I'm gonna feel like the worst thing that could happen already happened, and it really didn't affect anything very much as it would have if I had been a pilot and been untrained. But if we do want to do a good job, you don't want things to go wrong, it is still important to yourself. We have ways of practicing to get yourself ready so you know when you walk in there, you're going to be able to play at your best.
Yeah, and actually, when I want to ask, does anybody have one memory that is really positive? I mean, we focus on the one time that things didn't go well, or the one note we didn't play well. After all that work, is that all we're going to think about? Yes. Can you remember a really great, when things went really well? So that's another thing. She said it went really bad, but somehow she still got in the orchestra. Well, maybe it didn't go as bad as she thought. When you're in the moment and you miss that note, you think it's horrible. But it's one note. It doesn't necessarily mean you don't, that the whole performance is a failure. That's obsessing about one note. But I want to know, is there any time when anybody played and they just felt like, you know, those Olympic athletes, after they've done their routine, they don't even know if they got the medal or not, but they go, yes. How many can do a yes? Okay, talk to me about that performance. What was good about it?
I mean, I guess like I felt confident that I was ready to send the audition to the
Yeah?
listening to it. And
So it's when you listen to it afterwards that you decided it was okay. But when you were playing it, were you convinced the whole time you were playing? Yeah, he just had that feeling. Yes?
When I was playing it, it just sounded really good. And then when I got the results, I got a scholarship.
Okay, so it sounds like in some ways we're judging our performance based on whether we got a scholarship or whether we won something. But music is very subjective. And the arts are very subjective, I'll be honest. I've judged an awful lot of competitions, and so has Eliot. Sometimes there'll be 2 people sitting beside me, 2 other judges, and we won't necessarily pick the same person. Does that mean that the person I didn't pick is bad? Well, this guy picked that person, but I picked a different person. So I think that it's very important to recognize that there are some things you can control and some things you can't. Can you control what everybody thinks of you? Right. Can you decide what you want them to think? What do you want them to think? You want them to just say, oh, this person plays really well, or do you want them to say, that performance, wow. I'll tell you what I was feeling yesterday, last 2 weeks ago. I was way in the back, listening to you guys play, and I was excited because I felt like you were like the composer, just generating all this wonderful excitement and energy. I'm sure there must have been some wrong notes. Did anybody play a wrong note 2 weeks ago? But it's interesting because when I left the building, I saw a lot of smiling faces. I saw a lot of people feeling really good. Anybody go out for dinner afterwards and celebrate? Okay. You have to, as an individual, give yourself the opportunity to succeed at whatever stage you are in your playing. The audition, it's just an audition, it's a snapshot. You may win, you may lose, but my students have done a lot of competitions, and I make them call me right after they play, not after they learn who wins. And I'll ask them, so how did it go? And they go, oh, I didn't win. No, I said, how did it go? How did you feel? Oh, you know, I played really well. I think it's the best I ever played. And I tell them, go out and celebrate. You know, auditions are just, my son has done, he's a cellist. He's now a principal cellist in Germany. He's done a lot of auditions, dozens of auditions. And he had his sights set high. He said, I want a principal job. I don't want to just be, in the back of the section. Well, those are few and far between. He eventually got the principal job. After dozens of auditions, he didn't win every one. Is he going to quit because he doesn't win an audition? Is he going to say, I must be terrible because somebody else won this audition today? What if there were 3 judges and only two of them picked somebody else? So you have to have a certain sense of, I'm going to do my personal best. I'm going to have something to celebrate at the end of this. We talked about the compose. Yeah, what if it goes well?
Do we have
Yeah.
any
We talked about that.
Any,
You were happy, right?
any other consequences you can think? Like, what if you played your best ever in a performance or an audition? Are there any outcomes you can think of from that?
Well, even if you feel like you did your best, you recognize teachers I felt like I did my best, and I didn't necessarily not, but I practiced and felt good about it in ways.
Yeah.
So you might get inspiration from or motivation from that it might happen in the future.
Yeah. So when you obsess on a positive outcome, how does that make you feel? I've actually had people in a room and I say, how do you feel? Like right here in your gut. And they start to remember the most positive outcome they ever had. It's kind of cool. And actually it's kind of an excitement. When you think about a negative outcome, how do you feel? It's negative energy, negative excitement. Now, isn't this all about mind games then? If you had to define the word worry, what is that? Anybody define the word worry? Is it obsessing on a potential negative outcome? A fictional negative outcome? Is it logical to obsess on something so negative when you've worked really hard and you've done an awful lot of positive preparation? Is it logical to say, I'm going to screw it up? That's not logical. But your mind will play games with you if you put those thoughts there. If you say, this is what I want to feel. Right? Everybody put your hands up in the air. This is how I want to feel. Believe it or not, your mind plays games with you. Well, you can write the rules for these games. What if is nothing more than a mind game. Now, we were talking rehearsals. Interesting thing, when we practice and we're all by ourselves, are you sitting there going, I wonder what they'll think of me when you're practicing? So you could have something absolutely perfect in the practice room and then you go and suddenly there's people in it. Well, that's an unusual thing. You haven't practiced that. Now, can you invite an audience into your practice room every day? Just get people off the street? Probably not. You can't practice performing. Are there other ways we can practice performing? Like a flight simulator, not real solo, what? Mock auditions. What does it take? You have to just bring an extra body into the room. It only takes one person. Yes? Record yourself. Exactly. And send it to somebody. Have the courage to send it to somebody. Yes? Play in front of a mirror. Excellent. Anybody else? I mean, yes?
Yeah.
Be your own teacher. Be your own teacher. Listen to it yourself. Say, what would my teacher say? What do I want my teacher to say? So there's all kinds of ways of practicing it. And believe me, when I hit the record button, I get a little nervous. It's like, uh-oh. It might go perfectly. And I'm going to hit record. And I have recorded. I remember the first professional recording I did. And this man came from New York City, and my group was recording, and we were at Orchestra Hall, and he would just say, take one, take two, and he would have suggestions in between. He'd go, okay, da-da-da-da, this is a little like, piano, can you be a little softer here? Okay, take two. It's like, oh dear. I think I'll just get up and go to the ladies' room, take a deep breath, and come back. And I had to say to him, if you're gonna, shout these comments at me, I have to practice it a little before we do take two. And so somehow we got through that. And he told me a story later. He said, well, I had this recording session, and similar thing happened, and this person just got up from the piano and went to the bathroom, and she never came back. So these are choices. She made the choice that, I feel nervous. I don't like feeling nervous, so I'm just going to leave. No. That energy is yours. That energy is there for a reason. That's because our body has a mechanism that when you want to do something exciting, have you ever watched somebody getting ready to do a downhill ski race? What do you see? Are they relaxed? No. They're charged. They're energized. Right? Do you want to ask yourself, you want to say to yourself, oh, I just can't wait till this is over? Or you want to be the person that says, I can't wait to get out there and do this. I've worked so hard. It's a choice, right? Yes. Yeah. Well, if you expect the worst, what do you think might happen? The worst might happen. But I think what you're saying is, even when the worst happens, it's not the end of the world, right? Nobody died. Now, what are we risking, though? We're not risking our lives like I took my kids to the circus at a time in my life when I was experiencing a lot of nervousness. And here we were looking at trapeze artists. Has anybody ever seen somebody on a tightrope? Did they have a reason to feel nervous? Wow. What makes it possible for them to go out and do that? And they look pretty confident, too. What makes it possible? Yes?
Them practicing it so many times and then not thinking about what other people are going to say about it.
Yeah, are they worried about what people think? No. They can't afford to be thinking about what other people think, right? By the way, if you have a crisis, or if your house is on fire, right? Are you going to go, oh, I feel excited and nervous and I don't know what to do? Or are you going to go and jump in and seize the moment? You might have a feeling where you feel nervous. You can seize the moment, right? You can say, okay, snap out of it and seize the moment. And trust me, I don't know about you, I've had those moments where my mind I start to focus on myself and my feelings. Who were we talking about earlier? The composer, weren't we? Is this about me or is this about the composer? Is that what I should be thinking about? What do you think?
Yeah. I mean, you guys obviously have like a lot more mental training than I think I had at your age. You seem like really aware of a lot of this stuff. So I just wanted to do a quick demo of like what we're talking about when it applies to music. So I'm in my practice room, right? Nobody's here. Let's pretend like no one's here and I'm just playing. I'm practicing. Oh yeah, I sound good. Great, I'm ready for the concert. All right, and then I go out, or the audition. Let's call it the audition, because like you're all good at concerts already, but sometimes the audition feels pretty bad. So I get out for the audition, and I get ready to play. How many string players do we have? Okay, you guys all know what I'm talking about. It's not going well, I gotta try harder, right? And I'm like, man, it was so good before and now it's bad. Like, why is it different? Why does it sound different than what it's the same violin, it's the same bow. Yeah. Yeah. I can't go back, right? Yeah. Yeah. Yes, exactly.
So if you're the worst things on the clarinet, is that competition right now?
That's a tough one for the bow shakes, huh?
But, you got like pens.
Yeah.
So like, everything is like, not.
Exactly. Yeah. Any other? There you can point out like a million things. Yeah. Yeah, I can't go back because when I'm practicing, like maybe I could have stopped. I could have been like, oh, I missed that shift, and I fix it, right? But in the concert, that's not an option. Yeah.
You're the nerves, they're intense, and you're shaking, you're sweating.
Yeah.
And your playing ability is really not that.
Exactly. All right, let's take two more because I'm not. You guys are making me nervous now. I'll take two more.
Your vibrato on the last D, like when you were faking nervousness, sounded like a dying cat.
Yeah. You start trying harder, and you're like, I gotta really cook this. Like I blew the first few notes. This note's got to be 10 times better. All right, last one. I can't take much more of this. Anyone? Yeah.
The confidence level with the
Yeah.
Did you notice it? He had a certain stage presence in the practice room, but he kind of lost it.
Yeah.
Could you just give us a little stage presence and pretend that you're confident? Sometimes
That's
we
all.
have to
Yeah, I think-
pretend. Sometimes we just have to will ourselves to be something else and be somebody else because we feel like I'm not good enough, but this isn't about me. You have to be the composer. You have to be bigger. The music is bigger than you or me, right? I was going to mention something else about. Well, you go ahead. You had.
Oh, so
Yeah.
I want to turn the first thing into the second thing, right? That's what we all want to do. We gotta want to get good at our instruments, but we want to turn what we do in the practice room into what we do under pressure. So what are some ways that you all have learned to do that, or that you've experienced to do that? Yeah.
When I went for the audition when I was in 8th grade, I pretty much just ignored that Mr. B was even there.
Yeah, that's a great one. Just so you're trying to recreate the feeling you have in your practice room when you get out on stage, right? Because he's not in your practice room, he's not on the stage. What are some other ones? There are a lot of good options. Yeah.
Auditions, so you do a lot of auditions to the point where you get experience with it going back.
Yeah, get that feeling, however you can get that stage feeling of this, and then just do it enough times where you trust, even if I'm feeling like that inside, I can make something good happen outside. Yeah.
And to be honest, I get to the point where I actually want that little bit of extra energy. If I don't have that little bit of feeling of like, okay, I'm feeling a little excited here, and I see it as a positive now. If I don't feel excited about what I'm about to do, then how important is it really to me? I'm not going to walk out like it's not important, like it doesn't matter. Yes. Oh, you talked about pretending someone isn't in the audience. I often pretend certain people might be in the audience. Is there someone in your life, anybody, that every time you play for them, you just know you're going to play well because they just make you feel so wonderful about your playing? Yes? Anybody? Yeah?
I guess younger peers, because the younger peers,
Yes?
since they have less experience, they just kind of
Okay, so that's a mindset that you should use. When you go out and play, it doesn't matter if it's a judge or an audience, you can say, I'm going to demonstrate to these young people how wonderful this can be and how fun it can be. Yes?
My clarinet teacher or other people in my section.
Yeah, because those are people that are going to say, yes. By the way, what if everyone is rooting for you? When I judge competitions, I'll be really honest with you. I don't know any of the competitors they walk on. I'm actually rooting for each and every one of them. They're playing pieces that I remember struggling with and I remember playing in my auditions. I'm rooting for them to play well. What if you put that in your mind game? Yeah? I also had, it wasn't even my piano teacher. When I was in college, I used to play a lot of sonatas, and I played for a violin teacher named Franco Gulli. Every time I played in his studio, everyone felt this way. He made everyone feel very special. We were just students. We were not, big stars like he was. And he would turn his chair around from his desk and do this, and he'd listen to every note. And he'd have a smile on his face. What if you took that mental mind game and said, that's what I want to see. That's what I'm going to focus on. I'm going to think about the result. And what are the rewards at the end of a concert? Who in this group left the concert 2 weeks ago feeling miserable? Anybody feel miserable? What? Why? Okay, so you felt miserable because it didn't go as much fun. You think that, so what we have to get at is, what are you going to do about it so that you don't feel miserable next time? Yeah? Was it a new experience for you? To play that piece, or just that this happened, it never happened to you before? She said, I left the nerves. So I let my mind run away with me, didn't I? And can you control that? Yes, you can. We think we can't control nerves. We think there's some gas that sort of comes into the room and suddenly we're nervous. Those nerves are nobody else's. Those are our nerves. And we can tell them to get lost. I have literally looked in the mirror when I had felt nervous and said, get lost. Stop beating yourself up. Go out there and do your job, because you have a job. You think of it as a job. Whether you get the job or not, you have to walk out and it's a job for today. It's a task. You want to take a little bit more? Oh, we had some ideas for practicing, because it turns out that in practicing, we're not thinking about an audience. We're not thinking about the judge. So what can we do? Should we ask ourselves, what do we want the judge to say about my playing, other than you played in tune? That's kind of a low bar. You want to play in tune, right? What are some things you want the judge to notice about your playing? Yes? Yeah. I actually won a competition once, and I had made what I thought was a horrible error. I lost my place just briefly, and it was the last movement of Schumann concerto. It was very complicated. And I got on track very quickly, but I left the stage feeling absolutely awful. And the judge actually gave me the prize because I recovered. Because everyone can make mistakes and they recover, and that's the mark of somebody that really knows the music. Stuff happens. But if you can recover, if you just say, I'm going to seize the moment, I'm going to take charge of this moment, that's notable. People recognize that. Excellent. What do we want, what would we want the composer to say? Let's get specific. Haydn. What would you want the composer to say about your Haydn? Anybody? That you played last week, London Symphony. What were you striving to do there?
Here.
Yeah.
Well, probably that it was exactly what he intended for.
Details, please.
I mean, all the phrasing, what he intended every note to sound like, and the ideas he expressed from pictures from the music.
All kinds of details, in other words, yes? That's what you should be concerned with in your practice room. What are the details that bring the music to life? Do you think that might actually help you win an audition, by the way? You think it's any different playing to pleasing or impressing or impacting a judge than it is an audience? No, if you capture the character of the music and they're writing things like, oh, that march really, I could feel the rhythm, that was so wonderful and rhythmic, that was a great march, or that was a great, I just wanted to get up and dance listening to this. That's what you really, then you know you've accomplished something, right?
Just
yes.
Real quick to add, I think that's really a big factor, is that intent and recovery within your performance is more important, I think, than playing a perfect audition or a perfect concert. And speaking, I mean, you both can speak highly to this as well, but as the professional musicians in the room, have you given a perfect concert yet?
No.
No.
Right. And so it's interesting that as a professional musician and a young musician, as we're striving to that level, we get caught up in it has to be perfect, it has to be perfect, it has to be perfect, it has to be perfect. And nobody has ever played a perfect musical performance ever in the history of music. Like, that's just not a thing. So we strive for it, and that's what makes us better, and that's what keeps us going, but we have to keep that nugget in our mind to just say, as humans, we're flawed anyway. So the music isn't going to be exact, and there's lots of things you'll find as you play more music through your careers that, you know, my fiance's playing a gig this weekend, she's playing the Harry Potter soundtrack.
Oh, wonderful.
And there are sections of it that are impossible to play.
Really hard.
It just isn't, and thankfully there's brass on top of it so nobody can hear it. But the point is, there's a reality for that as well, and sometimes that's the stuff that ends up on the audition on purpose, right? So that can go. But if your intent is there, and I talked to Symphony members about this in your last chair audition, if there's fire in what you provide, sometimes that's better than every note being exactly the way we asked for it, right? There has to be intent and musical overlap and forward. And just knowing that the thing we're striving for is always going to be just out of reach. So we have to keep that in mind to keep ourselves sane as we go through that journey.
Exactly. And when you use the word perfect, but what does perfect mean? Perfect is kind of, in some respects, boring because you can go and now you have all of the ways you can use what's the word for the computerized thing. You can get a perfect performance out of a computer in terms of, yeah, all the notes were there, they were in the right rhythm, they were in tune. That's nothing, right? Oh, he's gonna do it for us. The perfect performance.
Oh, I missed it. That wasn't even perfect. No one's clapping? What? Really perfect. I played all the other notes.
I mean, it's not a compliment if someone comes backstage to me after a concert and says, well, I was impressed, you played perfectly. Like, are they excited? No. I want them to say something particularly, some detail. I loved your WC, I loved the sense that there were ocean waves, or I loved this, or oh my gosh, I had the feeling that I was in Russia when you played that Russian piece. That's what I want to hear. And by the way, that's actually the things that won me competitions when I was your age. Because I didn't think I had the technique, and I certainly didn't always play perfectly. But they saw that, and they said, we're going to give this girl first prize. I didn't win all the time, but when I did win, that's why I won. And I think you could say the same. I played with this guy. And by the way, when your leader here says that there's fire in the playing, where does that fire come from? It's a little bit of nervous energy. If something really means something to you, do you remember when you were a kid and you wanted to ride a bike? I remember. I couldn't even sleep the night before because I found out Mom was going to let me teach me to ride the bike the next day with my dad. And you think I didn't fall off that bike a million times? But I still wanted to ride that bike. And I got excited. I got nervous because it wasn't easy to ride the bike. What do we do with the bike? We put training wheels on it. When you're in your practice room, you can practice performing. That's like having training wheels. I have a little trick that I make my students do, and you can do it in small packages. I'll make them play a single phrase perfectly 3 times in a row, but I say perfect is not just the notes. Perfect is, did you do everything? Did you do the dynamic? Did you make a shape? Did you get a nice sound? Do it 3 times in a row. And usually the first time's good, really good, and then second time they're like, yeah. And they get to the third time and they get, all of a sudden, they're not focused, and guess what happens? They have to start again, and I make them do it 3 times, starting with number 1. And what is that? That's an experience that teaches us that we have to keep our focus. Who plays video games? Huh. You guys know about focus? What happens when you're not focused in a video game? You die, well, figuratively speaking, you can lose lives playing video games. Are you excited when you play those games, or are you just kind of relaxed and laid back? Anybody play video games when they're just like relaxed? A little too laid back? Are you going to win the game? But there is a mindset that says, this matters to me, I gotta stay focused. And each phrase has to matter just as much as the last one. And you can practice each one separately, right? Are we out of time yet? 5 minutes. Do you want to do the checklist? Or not? You want to take it?
Yeah, so we just wanted to give you like some gateways to getting from like your good practice and your good sense of music to being able to bring that out when you really want it. And we've talked about, you know, positive thought processes and trying to focus on things that you can actually accomplish, like playing musically, playing in the way the composer might want, and playing, remembering times you played well before. One thing I like to do, we each have sort of our ways of getting ready, and you will develop that throughout your life as a musician. I like when I'm practicing, I've been on stage enough times to sort of know how I feel when I go out on stage. I'm sure it's different than how each one of you feel your own unique way, but I know how my body and my mind react when I'm in a stressful situation. And when I practice, I do everything I can to give my body and my mind that feeling. So if I wait until I'm on stage and it's the first time I'm like sweating, right? Or the first time my bow starts to shake, my bow's never shaking when I practice, then it's gonna be bad. I'm not gonna play well, right? I don't know how to deal with it. But if when I'm practicing, I close my eyes, I picture myself standing right there or wherever it is you stand to play your audition, and I feel the audience's eyes on me when I'm practicing in my practice room. Then when I get on stage, I'm like, I've done this 2,000 times already. I trust that it's going to go as well as it went when I was practicing. I obviously want my practicing to get better every day. I know next year it's going to sound better than it sounded this year, but I can trust that when I get out there, it's not the first time I'm feeling this, because I've sort of manufactured that feeling in my practice space by myself. And you have other, how do you get ready for a concert?
I do this as well, but I think that what I do a lot, and sometimes I have to remind myself in the 11th hour to do these things, because in the 11th hour maybe some little thing starts to go wrong, and I go, wait, it's been going, all of a sudden I can't play this particular passage, what's going on, and I can get all stressed out about it, and then I remember I'm not focusing on the music. I shouldn't be focusing on some silly technical thing. If I can fix it, fine, but it should be in context of the music. We don't, if we start fixating on something at the expense of that long line or that beautiful phrase or whatever the special moment is that we want to make in the music, that's when stuff happens. That's when stuff happens. So my practicing, I literally in my brain, and I'll do this with my students, I'll be working with a student who's little and I'll say, by the way, Mr. Mozart just walked in. Let's play that again. Interestingly, they start to play more beautifully. They start to play more than just the notes. Because they realize, wait a minute, my mind has been just thinking about notes. So I imagine that there are people in the room. I imagine they're like right behind me. Can I do that? Of course, there's the power of the mind. If I can imagine and worry about what people will think, I can certainly put them in my room. I almost always put someone special in my audience, and they don't have to be here. And they're in the front row. And they're doing this. And I always play well for those people. I mean, there must be someone who, or even just knowing that, asking yourself, is this audience not going to be excited about what I just played? You heard the audience applaud for you 2 weeks ago. Are you going to expect them to throw rotten tomatoes at you after our concert? Heck no. You know, start to expect that rush, that wonderful feeling of accomplishing something. And whether you win or lose, you should be doing this. Every time you put yourself in that, accept one of those challenges, you should be celebrating. I did it. I did it. It wasn't easy. I learned something from it. And every practice room experience should be thinking about that. We've got to pretend that there are people in the room because it's something that we have to communicate. A story isn't any good unless somebody's telling it, and you have to tell the story. So that's a different thing than just playing the notes. You have to tell a story and imagine the people listening to it and reacting to it. Maybe they even shed a tear if it's sad. Maybe they laugh if there's something humorous. Maybe they start tapping their toes. But if you aren't generating something in that audience, you're going to be bored with your own playing and you're going to get distracted and you're going to think about yourself. And if you're bored, they're going to be very bored, and that's the last thing you want. Okay? There's a lot of things you want your audience to feel, but you don't want them bored. So put energy into keeping that music alive. Put fire in your belly, right? And that's positive. Nobody wants to take on a big project that matters without that energy. And energy, you can call it nerves if you want, but it's energy. It's yours. And your mind is very powerful. So it's going to lead you where you tell it to lead you. So I hope this has been helpful. I don't know if you have time for any quick questions. Anything? All right. Are you guys supercharged? Are you psyched? Are you revved up? Because that's what you have to be if you're going to enjoy yourselves in this field of music. Don't beat yourselves up. Just do something